Stop me if this sounds familiar. Something goes wrong in your life, and suddenly you're thinking this is terrible. I can't handle this. This shouldn't be happening to me. Feel that? That tightness in your chest? That's not the situation causing that. That's one thought. One specific type of thinking that's been running your life like a puppet master. And I'm going to show you exactly what it is, why it's keeping you weak, and how to cut those strings. Look, I'm not here to make you feel good. I'm here to help you feel better, and there's a difference. In the next 25 minutes, you're going to learn the exact thought pattern that's been sabotaging your mental health. More importantly, you're going to learn how to recognize it in real time and what to do instead. This isn't theory. This is the system I used with thousands of people over 5 decades. The ones who got it, they transformed their lives. The ones who didn't, they stayed stuck. Which one are you going to be? You're tired of feeling like you can't handle life. Tired of small setbacks feeling like catastrophes. Tired of your emotions running the show while you just try to survive. You know something's off with how you're thinking, but you can't quite put your finger on it. And everyone's advice to just think positive or practice self-care feels like putting a Band-Aid on a bullet wound. I created rational emotive behavior therapy because I was sick of watching people suffer unnecessarily. Not from real problems, we all have those, but from their own thinking. The beautiful thing? Once you see how you're creating your own misery, you can stop. You don't need years of therapy. You don't need to revisit your childhood. You just need to see the pattern and interrupt it. That's what we're doing today. I get it. You've been conditioned since childhood to think this way. Your parents did it. Your teachers did it. Society does it. Everyone's walking around demanding that life be a certain way and then getting upset when it isn't. You're not crazy. You're just thinking crazy thoughts. And the moment you see them for what they are, that's when freedom starts. Here it is. The thought that's keeping you weak. Things must be the way I want them to be. That's it. That's the poison. Not I prefer things to go well, or I want things to work out, but must, should, have to, need to, got to. This is what I call masturbation, and it's probably the most harmful thing you do to yourself every single day. There are 3 versions of this poison. First, I must perform well and be approved of, or else I'm worthless. Second, other people must treat me kindly and fairly, or else they're damnable. Third, life must be easy and give me what I want, or else it's awful and I can't stand it. Notice the pattern? Demand, rigid requirement, no flexibility, no room for reality. When you think in musts, you set yourself up for constant disappointment. Because reality doesn't care about your musts. Life doesn't read your rule book. People don't follow your script. So you're constantly running into conflict between your demands and actual reality. And guess what? Reality wins. Every single time. But instead of changing your demands, you just keep suffering. Here's what happens. You have a must. Reality violates it. Then you start awfulizing. This is terrible. This is the worst. Then comes I can't stand it-itis. I can't handle this. Then you damn yourself or others. I'm worthless. Or they're terrible. All from one rigid demand that had no basis in reality to begin with. Nobody's born thinking in musts. You learned it. Your parents said you must do well in school. Your teachers said you must follow the rules. Society said you must be successful, attractive, liked. And you internalized it. You took preferences and turned them into absolutes. You took desires and made them demands. And now you're suffering for it. I remember sitting in my office with a woman who was absolutely convinced that she must have her husband's approval for every single decision. Must have it. Not wanted it, not preferred it, absolutely had to have it. And every time he disagreed with her or seemed annoyed or didn't praise her immediately, she would spiral into panic. Her whole sense of worth was tied to whether this one person approved of her choices. I asked her, where's the law of the universe that says you must have his approval? Show me. She couldn't because it doesn't exist. But she'd been operating as if it did for 20 years of marriage. 20 years of unnecessary anxiety because of one irrational demand. Think about it like this. Imagine demanding the weather be sunny every day. You wake up, look outside, see rain, and start screaming about how terrible this is, how it shouldn't be raining, how you can't stand it. Sounds ridiculous, right? But that's exactly what you do with life. You demand it follow your preferences, and when it doesn't, you torture yourself. The weather doesn't care about your demands. Neither does life. Now, you might be thinking, but Albert, don't I need some standards? Shouldn't I want things to go well? Absolutely. But there's a massive difference between wanting and demanding, between preferring and requiring. Let me show you what healthy thinking actually looks like. Most people think it works like this. Something bad happens, that's A, and they feel terrible, that's C. Event causes feeling. Simple, right? Wrong. Dead wrong. There's a B in there that everyone misses. Something happens, that's A, the activating event. You have a belief about it, that's B. And that belief creates your emotional consequence. That's C. The event doesn't upset you. Your belief about the event upsets you. Let's say you get rejected for a job. That's A, the activating event. Now, person one thinks, this is disappointing, but I'll find another opportunity. That's B, their belief. They feel C, somewhat sad but motivated. Person two thinks, I must get every job I apply for. This means I'm worthless. I'll never succeed. That's B. They feel C, devastated, hopeless, depressed. Same A, different B, completely different C. Your belief is the key. This means you're not a victim of circumstances. You're not powerless. Your emotions aren't just happening to you. You're creating them with your thinking. Is that scary? Maybe, but it's also incredibly empowering. Because if your thoughts create your feelings, you can change your feelings by changing your thoughts. You have control. You've always had control. You just didn't know it. At B, you're running one of two types of beliefs, rational or irrational. Rational beliefs are flexible, logical, and helpful. I prefer to succeed, but I don't have to. Irrational beliefs are rigid, illogical, and harmful. I must succeed, or I'm worthless. The irrational ones contain those musts, those demands, those awfulizing thoughts. And they're what create your unnecessary suffering. Here's how you know if your belief is irrational. Ask yourself, is it logical? Does it help me? Is it based in reality? If your belief is I must be loved by everyone, let's test it. Logical? No. Why must you be? Helpful? No. It makes you anxious and people-pleasing. Based in reality? No. Nobody is loved by everyone. It fails on all counts. That's an irrational belief, and it's hurting you. I had two people come to me once on the same day. Both stuck in traffic on the way to my office. Both late. Person one walked in apologizing, a little stressed, but fine. Person two walked in absolutely enraged, blood pressure through the roof, ready to punch someone. I asked them both what happened. Same story. Traffic jam. Construction. Couldn't move. But person one thought, well, this is inconvenient. I'll call and let him know I'm late. Person two thought, this shouldn't be happening to me. Traffic must not delay me. This is intolerable. Same evidence, the traffic. Completely different interpretation. Completely different emotional result. That's the power of B. Let me tell you about a client I worked with years ago. She came in absolutely destroyed. Her husband had asked for a divorce, and she was convinced her life was over. Not just sad, not just grieving, but completely convinced she was worthless and could never be happy again. So I asked her, what are you telling yourself about this divorce? And she said, well, I must stay married or I'm a failure. My marriage must work out or it means I'm unlovable. I can't stand being alone. I said, let's look at those beliefs. Where's the evidence that you must stay married? Where's the law that says your worth depends on your marital status? And she couldn't find it because it doesn't exist. She'd made it up, not consciously, not maliciously, but she'd turned a strong preference. I want my marriage to work into an absolute demand. My marriage must work or I'm worthless. And that belief, not the divorce itself, was creating her devastation. We worked on changing B. She started thinking, I very much wanted my marriage to work, but it didn't. That's sad. That's disappointing. But it doesn't make me a failure. Lots of marriages end. That's reality. I can handle being alone, even though I don't prefer it. I've handled difficult things before. Within weeks, she went from devastated to sad, but functional. Within months, she was actually excited about her new life. Same divorce, different belief system, completely different life. So now you know how it works. Event, belief, consequence. But here's the question everybody asks me. Okay, Albert, I see I'm thinking irrationally. Now what? How do I actually change these beliefs? That's where we go from understanding to action. Let me show you the D in the system. Disputing. D stands for disputing. This is where you become your own therapist. You catch an irrational belief and you challenge it. You put it on trial. You ask it questions. You don't just accept it because it feels true or because you've always thought that way. You actively, aggressively dispute it until it loses its power over you. When you catch a must or a should, ask yourself 3 questions. First, where's the evidence? I must succeed. Show me the universal law that says this. You can't because it doesn't exist. Second, where's the logic? I must be liked. Why must you? Says who? Makes no sense. Third, will this belief help me? Will thinking I can't stand this help you stand it? No, it'll make it worse. These 3 questions will demolish most irrational beliefs. Here's the reframe that changes everything. Instead of I must succeed, try I prefer to succeed, but I don't have to. If I don't, it's disappointing, not devastating. Instead of people must treat me fairly, try I want people to treat me fairly, but they don't have to. When they don't, it's frustrating, not unbearable. See the difference? You keep the preference, that's healthy. You drop the demand, that's freeing. When you catch yourself saying, this is terrible, this is awful, stop and ask, is it really? Awful means nothing could be worse. Is that true? Or is it just bad? Inconvenient? Frustrating? Disappointing? Those are all legitimate feelings. But awful? That's reserved for true catastrophes. Getting stuck in traffic isn't awful. Getting criticized isn't awful. Not getting what you want isn't awful. It's just unpleasant. And you can handle unpleasant. The biggest dispute you'll ever do is against I'm worthless or I'm a failure. Here's the truth. You can't be worthless. You're a human being. You have inherent worth just by existing. Now, your behaviors? Those can be good or bad. Your performance? That can succeed or fail. But you as a person? You're not rateable. You're too complex. You have thousands of traits, constantly changing. So stop globally rating yourself and start rating your actions. That's something you can actually work with. I remember a guy who came to see me, absolutely convinced he was a complete failure. And I said, really? Complete failure? So you've failed at everything you've ever attempted in your entire life? And he said, well, no, but I failed at this big business venture. I said, okay, so you failed at one thing. That makes you a person who failed at one thing, not a failure. He looked at me like I was speaking a different language. But then it clicked. He wasn't a failure. He'd had a failure. Big difference. One is a global rating that destroys you. The other is a specific event you can learn from. I had him start disputing every time he caught himself saying I'm a failure. Where's the evidence I'm a total failure? Well, I succeeded at my education, my first business, my relationships, raising my kids. So not a total failure. Where's the logic in rating my entire being based on one outcome? There is none. Does it help me to call myself a failure? Hell no. It makes me want to give up. Within a month, he was thinking I had a business fail. That sucks. What can I learn? What's next? Same situation. Completely different mental space. Now, disputing isn't always easy at first. Your irrational beliefs have had years to sink in. They feel true. They feel automatic. So you need practice. You need to catch these thoughts in real time and challenge them on the spot. Let me show you how to do that in actual situations you face every day. Theory is useless without practice. So let's take the most common situations where people masturbate themselves into misery and see how you apply this. These are the moments where you'll either react with your old irrational beliefs or respond with your new rational ones. The choice is yours. Someone doesn't want to date you, hire you, or be friends with you. Old belief, this is awful. I must be liked. What's wrong with me? Dispute. Where's the evidence I must be liked by everyone? Nowhere. This person isn't interested. That's disappointing, but it doesn't mean anything about my worth. Plenty of people are interested in me. This one isn't. That's life. I can stand it. See? You acknowledge the disappointment, but don't catastrophize. You mess up at work, forget something important, say something stupid. Old belief, I must never make mistakes. I'm an idiot. I can't stand this embarrassment. Dispute. Do I have evidence that I must be perfect? No. Does making mistakes make me worthless? No. It makes me human. Every person on earth makes mistakes. This is inconvenient, maybe embarrassing, but I can definitely stand it. What I learned from this? Now you're using the mistake instead of drowning in it. Someone cuts you off in traffic, gets promoted over you, treats you poorly. Old belief. This shouldn't happen. Life must be fair. This is intolerable. Dispute. Where's the law that says life must be fair? Show me. Life is often unfair. That's reality. I don't like it, but I don't have to like it to handle it. Getting angry doesn't make it fair. It just makes me miserable. What's my best move here? You switch from impotent rage to problem solving. Multiple problems hit at once. Money trouble, relationship issues, health concerns. Old belief. I can't handle all this. This is too much. Things must be easier. Dispute. Am I handling it right now? Yes, I'm still here. Is it comfortable? No. But can't handle and uncomfortable aren't the same thing. People handle difficult things all the time. I have before, I can now. What's one thing I could do next? You move from paralysis to action. I worked with a woman who used to absolutely spiral after any criticism at work, any negative feedback, even constructive, and she'd spend days in a depressive episode convinced she was going to get fired and would never succeed. We practiced disputing in session. I'd criticize her. She'd practice her responses. At first it was clunky. She'd catch herself hours later realizing she'd been masturbating. But she kept at it, started catching it in minutes, then in real time, then before she even fully formed the irrational thought. 6 months later, her boss gave her some tough feedback on a project, and she told me, I felt that old familiar panic starting. But immediately I thought, okay, where's the must here? Oh, I'm thinking I must never receive criticism. Is that logical? No. Does it help? No. The criticism is just information. It doesn't mean I'm worthless. It means this project needs work. And you know what? She went back to her office and improved the project. Same criticism that used to destroy her for days, she used it in an hour. That's the power of real-time disputing. You're starting to see how this works. Catch the irrational belief, dispute it, replace it with something rational. But I know what you're thinking. This sounds great, Albert, but I've been thinking this way my whole life. How do I actually make this stick? How do I rewire my brain? That's what we tackle next. Here's the truth. You can't just dispute an irrational belief once and expect it to disappear. Your brain has neural pathways, highways of thought that you've traveled for years. The irrational ones are like superhighways. The rational ones you're building, right now, they're dirt paths. But every time you dispute, every time you choose the rational thought, you're paving that path. Eventually, it becomes the highway. This isn't a one-time fix. It's a practice. Every single time you catch yourself masturbating, you dispute it. Every time you start awfulizing, you challenge it. Every time you damn yourself, you practice self-acceptance. You do this dozens of times a day at first. It feels like work because it is work. But here's the beautiful thing, it gets easier. Much easier. Eventually, rational thinking becomes automatic. But you have to put in the reps. I used to give people homework. Not because I'm cruel, but because change happens between sessions, not during them. Your homework? Keep a thought log. When you feel upset, write down the situation, your belief, and your feeling. Then dispute the belief and write a rational alternative. Do this daily. This isn't busy work. This is how you rewire your brain. You're making the unconscious conscious. You're catching your thoughts before they catch you. Here's a technique that accelerates the process. Think of a situation that usually upsets you. Really feel the negative emotion. Anxiety, anger, depression. Now, while keeping the situation the same in your mind, change the feeling to something less destructive. Not happy necessarily, just manageable. Disappointed instead of devastated. Annoyed instead of enraged. How? By changing your belief in that imaginary scenario. Practice this daily, and you'll find real situations trigger you less. This is the foundation under everything. You have to get to a place where your worth isn't on the table anymore. Not I'm worthy because I succeeded or I'm valuable because people like me. Just I'm a human being with inherent worth, period. Your performance can be good or bad. Your behavior can be helpful or harmful. But you're acceptable as a human. Always. This isn't self-esteem that goes up and down. This is self-acceptance. It's constant. Build this, and nothing can truly shake you. I'm talking about unconditional self-acceptance here. Not I accept myself when I do well. Not I accept myself when people approve. Just I accept myself. Full stop. No conditions. Because you're a fallible human being, just like every other human being on this planet. You're going to mess up. You're going to fail sometimes. You're going to have traits you don't like. And none of that makes you less worthy of acceptance. I had a client who practiced thought logs religiously for 3 months. Every single day. At first, she'd write pages. 10, 15 irrational beliefs a day. I must be perfect. People must like me. This is awful. I can't stand it. But she kept disputing, kept challenging, kept replacing those thoughts with rational alternatives. After 3 months, you know what happened? She looked back at her early logs and actually laughed. She couldn't believe she'd been that upset over such small things. Not because she'd become cold or uncaring, but because she'd genuinely changed how she thought about events. Scientists now know that your brain is plastic. Neuroplasticity, they call it. It means your brain physically changes based on your thoughts and behaviors. Every time you think a thought, you strengthen that neural pathway. Every time you think a different thought, you build a new pathway. It's like working out. One session doesn't transform your body, but consistent work over time, complete transformation. Your thinking works the same way. So you've got the what, the why, and the how. You understand the irrational beliefs, you know how to dispute them, and you know how to make it stick. But let me tell you the thing that most people miss. The thing that determines whether you actually use this or just think it's a nice idea. Want to know what separates people who change from people who stay stuck? It's not intelligence. It's not how severe your problems are. It's not how long you've been suffering. It's this: your willingness to accept discomfort. That's it. If you're willing to feel uncomfortable while you change your thinking, you'll succeed. If you keep demanding comfort, you'll stay exactly where you are. This is the killer. I can't stand itis. You can't stand being anxious, so you avoid. You can't stand being uncomfortable, so you quit. You can't stand uncertainty, so you don't try. But here's the secret. You can stand it. You're standing uncomfortable things right now. The question isn't can I stand it? It's am I willing to stand it to get what I want? Most people aren't. They want change without discomfort. They want growth without challenge. Doesn't work that way. Every time you use an irrational belief, you get short-term relief. I can't handle this lets you avoid. I must be perfect gives you temporary control. But long-term, you're miserable. Rational thinking is the opposite. Short-term discomfort. It feels weird to think differently. It takes effort to dispute. But long-term, freedom, peace, resilience. You have to be willing to trade short-term comfort for long-term well-being. Most people won't. Will you? You don't need to feel confident to act confident. You don't need to feel brave to do brave things. Your feelings are just feelings. They're not facts, and they're not commands. One of the most important things I ever taught people: feel the fear and do it anyway. Feel the anxiety and challenge your thoughts anyway. Feel the discomfort and practice your disputing anyway. Action changes feelings. Waiting for feelings to change before you act, you'll wait forever. I was terrified of public speaking when I started my career. Absolutely terrified. Social anxiety was one of my biggest issues. But I knew I had to speak publicly to share this work. So what did I do? I forced myself to do it anyway. I felt the fear. My hands shook. My voice trembled. And I did it anyway. You know what happened? Over time, the fear lessened. Not because I waited for it to go away, but because I acted despite it. That's how change works. You feel the discomfort and move forward anyway. Right now, you're at a choice point. You can take what you've learned and actually use it, knowing it'll be uncomfortable at first. Or you can agree with everything I've said and then go back to your old patterns because they're familiar. Both are choices. Neither is wrong, but one leads to change and one leads to more of the same. You get to decide, but be honest about which one you're choosing. I had 2 clients with almost identical situations. Both had severe social anxiety. Both learned the same techniques. Both understood the concepts intellectually. Client 1 said, "I'm willing to feel uncomfortable. I'm willing to practice disputing even when it feels awkward. I'm willing to put myself in social situations even though I'm anxious." Client 2 said, "I get it, but I'll wait until I feel more comfortable, then I'll try." Guess which one transformed their life and which one is still stuck 5 years later? It's not about being perfect. It's not about never feeling anxious or never having irrational thoughts. You're human. You're going to have those thoughts. The question is, what do you do when you have them? Do you believe them and let them run your life? Or do you catch them, challenge them, and choose something different? That choice, made consistently over time, is what determines your quality of life. Look, I've given you the tools. I've shown you the pattern that's keeping you weak. I've shown you how to challenge it and how to make new thinking automatic. The question now isn't whether this works. I've got 50 years of evidence that it does. The question is whether you'll actually do it. Here's what you learned today. The thought keeping you weak is your demanding thinking. Your musts, your shoulds, your have-tos. You learned that events don't upset you. Your beliefs about events upset you. You learned how to dispute those irrational beliefs with 3 questions. Where's the evidence? Where's the logic? Does this help me? You learned to turn musts into preferences, awfulizing into realistic assessment, and self-damnation into self-acceptance. And you learned that change requires you to accept discomfort. So here's my challenge to you. For the next week, catch yourself every time you use the word must, or should, or have to, or can't stand. Every single time. Write it down if you need to. Then ask yourself, is this a preference or a demand? Am I being flexible or rigid? Is this helping me or hurting me? You've spent years thinking irrationally. That's not your fault. You were taught to. But now you know better. And knowing better means you're responsible for doing better. Not perfectly, not immediately, but consistently. One thought at a time. One dispute at a time. One rational belief at a time. Your worth isn't on the line. Your success doesn't have to be perfect. Life doesn't have to go your way. And guess what? When you truly accept those things, you become unstoppable. Not because you're immune to problems, but because you stop creating unnecessary ones with your thinking. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. Albert, what about when I've tried to change my thinking before and it didn't work? What if I'm too far gone? That's actually the topic of my next session, because there's one massive mistake people make when trying to apply rational thinking. It's so common that almost everyone does it, and it completely sabotages their progress. I'm talking about the difference between intellectual understanding and emotional conviction, knowing something versus believing it in your gut. Most people think they're the same thing. They're not even close. You can understand logically that you're not worthless, but still feel worthless emotionally. You can know rationally that you can handle something, but still feel like you can't. That gap between your head and your heart, that's what keeps people stuck even after they learn these techniques. I break down exactly why your brain resists rational thinking even when you know it's right, and more importantly, the specific technique to get your emotions on board with what your logic already knows. It's called the gap between knowing and feeling, and it's critical if you want lasting change. Click on that video right now. Don't wait, because understanding what I taught you today is step 1. Making it stick emotionally, that's where real transformation happens. Go watch it now.